Hello there. Welcome to or welcome back to my channel, Snips by Kelly. I'm Kelly and I'm excited to continue on today to part 2 of a 5-part series where we focus on scrapbooking our everyday moments. We're going to create a layout today that is kind of a popular trend in which you take very similar photos in multiples, arrange them in a linear fashion to tell your story. But before we get too far, won't you take a moment to hit subscribe and the notifications bell so you're all set for the next part in the series. Last week, we created using our Irresistibles cardstock and the Let's Play Stampin' Thin Cut set. We focused on applying ink from our stamp pads with our blending brushes to the Resist cardstock to create unique colors and patterns to coordinate with the photos. So I'm linking in the description last week's process video that goes over great detail our Irresistibles cardstock. Today we're going to use a couple pieces of the leftover Irresistibles and we're going to add some pattern paper from our Season Mix-Ins paper pack. If you're not familiar with our Season Mix-Ins, it is a 6-pattern paper pack, reversible of course, that is designed to coordinate with both paper suites in our current catalog cycle. So for example, in our July-August cycle, we have both Cape Cod and Cozy Up. So if you look at the patterns and the colors in this Season Mix-In pack, you'll see a variety of patterns and colors that will go with either or both of those lines. So I've pulled out 2 of the patterns that I feel are going to go with our photos today, as well as some coordinating cardstock, which are Lagoon, Glacier, Honey Butter, Raspberry, and White. So we're going to create today with a series of photos that I snapped of Claire Adeline, our granddaughter, who came over for a play date. She was babysitting grandma, I guess. So we have a costume box that is filled with costumes that are left over from homecomings and birthday parties and Halloween, and all of my grandkids love to play in the costume box. Claire found this crocheted hat in these silly glasses that have daisies on them, and she posed in all kinds of different poses for me. So I wanted to create this linear style layout and put all of these in a series and tell the cute little story of how she posed and had so much fun in this everyday moment. But a couple of the photos are kind of facing in the wrong direction. I really like it when the photos can turn inward toward each other. It seems a little off with her facing outward on the left and then inward on the right. So I actually used a photo app to reverse that photo. The photo app that I use is called Print to Size, and I use it with my PictureMate 400 Epson series. And so what I did is I reversed 2 of those photos. It is so easy to do. You literally click a button, and later on in the video I do a screenshot and show you what that looks like. And you can literally move the subject of the photo from the left to the right or the right to the left. It feels so much better now having her facing in the opposite direction. So these 2 photos that were facing from the left, now you can see how I've completely rotated both of those so that they're rotated and they're facing from the right. And there's a photo of my Print to Size icon for my Print to Size app. So now I also do end up changing the photo that I'm pointing to here later on in the series as well, because I do want that to rotate a little bit inward from the left as well. So I have decided to put these in a linear series. I did consider having the larger focal photo snug with 4x4s on either side, but I opted to go with 3x4s simply because I want to do a little paper layering and do some technique and maybe a few little treatments in the center there to really make that focal photo stand out. So I've used 3x4 pieces of the Irresistibles cardstock. It's kind of hard to see the patterns, but I used a crisscross pattern and a daisy pattern. And so I cut 4 3x4 of the Irresistibles, and I cut also 3x4 sizes of the season mix-ins. And so of the yellow pattern, I cut 2 that are 3x4, and of the glacier pattern, I cut 2 that are 3x4. And now I'm just arranging those patterns. Originally, I think I'm going to use 2 of each side, you know, 1 of each of the glacier sides and 1 of each of the honey butter sides. There is a little tiny bit of honey butter in those little flowers in Claire's glasses. And then, of course, the glacier in her dress and the glacier in the flowers in the glasses, and then the white in the hat. So now we're going to take a look at some options when it comes to treating the Irresistible. There are so many things that you can do on the Resist cardstock. So I've brought out some shimmer brushes, some sponge daubers, some blending brushes, some stamp pads, a water brush, and I have a scrap of some Irresistibles cardstock that we can put some treatments on so you can see the difference that it makes. So the very first treatment, I'm just using a blending brush and some ink. I'm actually using Lagoon ink, and it just rubs on so nice and so easy. Now sometimes you'll rub it on harder and sometimes lighter, and you can also wipe it with a cloth, and the ink resistive portion in between can be wiped off so that you can see a more clearer white in between the pattern. Now I'm using a shimmer brush, which is so beautiful to see the shimmer. When you apply the shimmer to the Resist pattern, you get that wonderful shimmery feel. Again, you have to get a cloth or a paper towel after it's dried for a second, actually before it's dried all the way, but after it's dried for a second, and wipe that off so that you can see more of the clear white lines in between. So it's not kind of murky in between, and it just colors it so nice. So another thing that you can do besides the shimmer brushes and using the blending brush is you can squeeze some ink on the lid of your ink pad. Squeeze a little ink into the lid of the stamp pad, add a little bit of water from the water brush and swirl it around. I got a little bit too much water. It doesn't take too much, but you'll see here in a minute that I got it a little too wet, but it does dry, and less is more. You don't need much, and you can simply rub that on the Resist cardstock, on the Irresistibles, and again, it's a wonderful way to color. And of course, you'll need to also wipe that because the Resist in between on the diagonals will be wipeable because it doesn't stick to that section. Another thing that you can do is you can take your sponge daubers and you can rub with your sponge daubers. You can rub with a sponge. You could probably smoosh with paper. You can, there's just so many things that you can do. And it's such a magical effect. I don't ever get tired of watching the magic happen with the Irresistibles. So you can see how it's 100% customizable. That's what I really love, is that you can make your Irresistibles. You can choose your pattern, stripes, crisscross, florals, dots, whatever your pattern is, and you can make it any color that you want to go with your photos. So now the question is, what colors do I want to use on my Daisy Irresistible and my crisscross Irresistible? So I'm going to go with raspberry for the floral. It just seems appropriate with the raspberry sunglasses, or I guess they're regular glasses, regular pretend glasses that Claire had so much fun with. So I'm actually going to, oh, I just was going to show you that we used to have some little foam inserts that went inside our medium organizers. And a lot of people, when I actually show on video that case, they always ask right away where that came from. We no longer have the foam inserts, but I have kept mine because I love keeping my sponge daubers for as long as I can until each one of them wears out and needs to be thrown away. So now I'm just taking my blending brush, rubbing it in the raspberry ink and rubbing it over the 3x4 Irresistibles cardstock, and I am now rubbing over the top of it again to clean off the excess ink so that that nice resist portion of the cardstock shows through as white. So I'm going to repeat that with the second piece. And if it's too light in certain spots, you can go back in and make it darker. You can push harder and rub more ink in if you want a darker color. If you want a lighter color, of course, you're going to be much lighter in your hand and just be real gentle when you do the rubbing. Next, we're going to choose our second color, and it is kind of tricky to decide, but I do decide that I really want a contrasting color that's just a little bit darker than the color of the photos. So I actually decide to use Lagoon. The color of Claire's shirt and the color inside the daisies on the glasses is more of a glacier color, but I already have some glacier in there with the season mix-ins, so I would like to be able to add one more contrasting color and be able to use the Lagoon as an additional color. I feel like if I did the Resist cardstock in glacier, it would be too much like the glacier pattern that I'm already using. If I do it in honey butter, it will be too much like the honey butter patterns of the season mix-ins that I'm using. So I do opt to go with a darker Lagoon, which might not seem like it makes sense, but trust me, it will make sense when we pull it all together to have yet another contrasting color instead of a color that will blend right in with all the other colors. So we're just going to repeat what we did before, where we're taking our blending brush, we're going to rub it in our Lagoon ink, and then we're going to rub it onto the Resist crisscross pattern and watch the magic happen. Again, you can rub lighter or darker. You can also ink the edges with the blending brush. There are lots of other techniques that you can do. You could splatter it with a shimmer brush. You could splatter it with a water brush, and it would resist in certain areas and absorb in certain areas. So again, now I'm just rubbing that so that the white shows through and you get any excess ink off that doesn't soak in because it's hitting the resist area. I love it. I love it. I think you're going to see more and more techniques with Irresistibles coming in the future. Again, I think I've said it 100 times already. What I love about it is if you are struggling to match a certain pattern, you can make your Irresistibles any color you want, and it just allows for you to extend your workshop pages and extend patterns. When you don't have enough patterns in the pattern paper pack, you can add multiple patterns and colors with the Irresistibles. So now I'm simply arranging those pieces, and I want to create a little bit of a rectangle or a box, and I can see myself doing some black journaling lines around the outside just for some added interest. So now I'm showing you the difference. So take a look at Claire facing outward and Claire facing inward. So it seems a little bit better to put the two left photos facing in one direction and the two right photos facing in another direction. It seems a little bit picky, but it seems a little bit more smooth when your eye goes across the photos. So again, I just simply sent the photo through my app, print to size, and there's a little a double line button that you click, and it just rotates the photo the completely opposite direction. You can actually rotate photos vertically and horizontally, and you can rotate them and flip the subject to the left or to the right with that. So I'll link that app in the description. And you can check it out. I absolutely love it. So here we have an adorable card front thin cut. I love to use these for cards. This one is so beautiful and so intricate. And it is, let's see, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 in size. And I love to make quick and easy cards with those that make you look fabulous because so much of it is already all done. It actually has another little piece that you can pop up in the center, a second thin cut that comes with it. And don't worry, I'll link all this in the description. Sometimes when I create with intricate die cuts, you will find people will have to brush out the little bits with a brush. They'll have to poke out the little bits with a piercing tool. What I do is I put a dryer sheet down. So I put the dryer sheet down, then I put the paper on top of the dryer sheet, then I put the die cut on top of that, or the thin cut, and when I roll it through the die cutter, this is what happens. When I peel off that top paper layer, all of the little bits come out onto the dryer sheet. I love it. So this is a technique that's been around for a long time, but I love using the dryer sheet way more than getting all those little bits all over by brushing them out. You can actually hold the dryer sheet over your trash can, knock all the little bits off, and reuse it again several more times. All right, so now what I want to do is I want to use that card front. I want to use that as a texture for the background. And I love adding either Cricut overlays and little bits to add for texture in the background, or I love using our thin cuts for that as well. We have tons of card front stencils. I keep calling them stencils, card front thin cuts. There we go. And they just create really interesting backgrounds that can peek out. So now I'm just experimenting with some offset paper so that I can toggle that photo and offset it with some regular cardstock colors. So now I'm going to grab my black Le Pen and I'm going to use my T ruler, and I'm going to speed this up just a little bit, but I'm going to add some black lines around all of the bits just for some interest. It's a great, quick, easy, inexpensive thing that you can do that will just add a little bit more interest to your page. And I love our T ruler for just this purpose, because our T ruler, even though it's not designed, it is designed to just be used as a regular ruler as well, but it does much more wonderful things and helps keep you in line. But I love it because it's an extra long ruler and I can fit it across my page in a diagonal or all the way across my Versamat so that I can line up my lines and I can make quick and easy lines around my pages. Now you can freehand too and be whimsical, and many people do that, and I do that more often than not, but I just wanted to show you how easy it is to be able to use the T ruler. Now it's time to embellish, and I thought because of the daisies in the funny sunglasses, I keep calling them sunglasses, the funny glasses that Claire is wearing, I thought we could use the daisies from our Daisy workshop. It has 4 thin cuts in the thin cut series, and they layer on top of each other to make these gorgeous layouts. So a lot of times what I will do is I will simply use something round like a shimmer brush or a pen, and I'll curl the edges either up or down. So what I did with these is I curled the 2 base layers down, and then the top layer I curled up a little bit, and then adding that center to it. So I cut these pieces from the Daisy Thin Cut in regular raspberry. I cut a few in the back side of raspberry because if you don't know it, our cardstocks are two-toned, a light and a regular, a true and a light side. And so I did a couple of those flowers on the light side with white centers. Then I did some white daisies with honey butter centers. Then I did regular raspberry with a black center to sort of tie it all together. Then we have these amazing sprigs. Let's see, twigs and sprigs. I will link that in the description. Oh my gosh, I love these so much. Sprigs and leaves. And so it is in a bundle with some stencils and an embossing folder, or it can be purchased separately, and it creates this great card front again. And but instead of using the card front, the stitched card front, I actually used the interior pieces that are left over, or the negative space pieces. And I'm just going to use those to embellish the page and to add those to the daisy clusters. So I'm just going to work with them a little bit and play. This is my favorite part. I'm just going to tuck maybe a big one, a couple big ones, and a small one in between, and sort of have those shooting off to the side and really add that accent. So when I was thinking about what we had to be able to embellish the page with, sometimes it can be tricky when you're using papers like the Irresistible cardstocks and the season mix-ins, because there is no sticker sheet for season mix-ins because it's just a 6 pattern pack, and there's no stickers for the Irresistibles. Now we do have alphabet stickers that are irresistible, that are the ink resist papers, but they're actually in a block alphabet, which are super fun to use. I may end up using those in one of our series here, but we don't actually have sticker sheets that go with the Irresistibles. So when it comes to embellishing, I have to dig through my stash or my current product and find different things to be able to use as embellishments and bits. So I love that we have our sprigs here, and it is a spring and leaves bundle, I believe is what it's called, but it's sprigs and leaves thin cut. But all of that will be linked in the description if you're curious about those. Now they were so popular, the sprigs and leaves were so popular that they completely sold out right away, but the company did order them again, and they are currently available, which is wonderful. Now the Daisy die cut has all sold out, but I hope if you're watching out there, you were able to grab that up. I love those daisies. If not, you can use just about any kind of a flower that you have, or a cricket flower would be wonderful to be able to add those clusters to. Now, to cover the title, there's quite a few things I could have done. I could have cut a title on the cricket. We do have some acrylic titles. We do have some die cuts. So there's quite a few different things that I could have done, but I opted to use our black acrylic letters. So this is a huge pack of letters that we get. And so I decided to spell out the title, Silly Little Moments. I love how playful Claire was. And so often she will say, Grandma, take my picture. And then she'll actually pose. So she'll say, I'm going to do pretend I'm sleeping. And then she'll say, I'm going to be silly. I'm going to be shocked. I'm going to be, and then she'll make all of her faces. And I love that this is just an everyday moment. She just came over to play. Nothing was planned. She put on the hat. It was probably a total of 10 minutes maybe that she was doing her little photo shoot with her hat. And the rest of the time she spent trying on lots of other costumes and doing lots of other things. But I loved capturing the playfulness that she has. And we have plenty of birthday parties and plenty of special events to scrap. And these are the little moments that I treasure when they come over to Grandma's and I get to have them either one-on-one or a few grandkids at a time, and we can play and we can really have a great time. So now I'm pulling out some flower die cuts. Our die cuts are wonderful. There's so many on a sheet and they're all different styles and sizes. So you have some small, some medium, and some large, and they are perfect accents, especially when we're already using the black accents with the alphabet letters and the sprigs and leaves in black. And now we can just simply embellish with a few of these die cuts. And I love these die cuts because we make them right in-house, so they are easier for the company to get, and it isn't too often that we run out of those. And so I love that. Now I've added our journaling stickers that are in different size strips, and I've done my journaling on there. And then I also, before adhering down the die cut flowers, I want to do a little splatter with the black shimmer brush. So I'm just going to mask off a little area there so I don't get the photos splattered, and I'm going to splatter with the black shimmer brush and just add a little more interest, maybe in a triangle. So on the lower right, the upper middle, and then the lower left to create that visual triangle of splatter. So I am lifting up my paper and I'm putting my all-purpose mat down, which is always an excellent idea, especially if you are me and you're a little bit of a hazard and you probably end up with more of that all over everywhere than where you really want it. I apologize for being off camera, but I just made a little puddle and I squeezed out a little bit of the black shimmer brush onto the all-purpose mat, and now I'm just doing a little tap, tap, tap in the corner to just add that added interest in the corner. I'm going to repeat that in the upper cluster and in the lower cluster as well, and just add a few little finishing touches. As I'm doing this, I'm starting to think about the transition between the photos and I feel like there's something missing. So I've actually cut the zip strip off of the seasoned mix-ins, and I'm going to cut it into 3-inch strips, 4 3-inch strips, and add that zip strip to the bottom of those photos that are just on the edges. The photos in the middle are going to the transition piece there is going to be covered up, so I don't have to worry about only having one zip strip. That is definitely the trick with the seasoned mix-ins, because there's 6 pattern papers, there's 6 different zip strips. So you don't have 2 of any one zip strip. So I love using faux strips that look like they go all the way across, but they actually just go part way, so you can get by with only the amount that you have in a single zip strip. It is finally coming together, my friends. So I hope you have enjoyed this process video. I hope you'll give this simple layout a try yourself. And I hope most of all that you will concentrate for a little while here anyway, but probably for always, on creating with everyday moments, just silly or happy or fun or memorable everyday moments that aren't because of some big major special event, but just because it's an everyday moment that you love. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope you'll tune in to part 3 of 5 that will debut next week as we continue on this 5-part series that focuses on scrapbooking with your everyday moments. All of the supplies that I used in today's video will be linked in the description, and I hope you'll hit subscribe if you've enjoyed today's video, and even the notifications bell if you want to be notified of any future videos. Thanks for watching, and happy scrapping. Enjoy those everyday moments. Bye-bye.